Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready, it's a new day. We got a special guest in the house. We got the CEO of American Income Life, Stephen Greer. Mr. Greer in the house. Welcome to the GRINDcast studio again, Mr. Greer.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah. Hopped on the PJ, hopped on the private jet and came to Pittsburgh, the cold Pittsburgh, in the 70, not so 70-degree weather today to come visit us. And, it's funny, Steve was talking about today. He said he hopped on the jet and was telling the guy, man, it's going to be warm today in Pittsburgh, 70 degrees. And
hit it just right.
And the guy looked at you a little funny and just kept rolling, huh?
Yeah, I had asked Siri, hey,
okay.
what's the weather going to be like in Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh.
Siri got a little mixed up. Evidently, there's like a Pittsburgh, California. So I packed a little lighter than I should have. I was thinking, there's no way it can be this good. I've never hit Pittsburgh in almost December. I mean, end of November here. And but you know what? It's a beautiful day. We got sunshine, so we
got some sunshine. It was nice, but not quite 70. So I think, if we dig right in, to it, I think one of the things that I know about you that a lot of folks, don't know about you, especially the young people that listen into our podcast, whether they're in our business or not in our business, a topic that I get a lot of times or question that I get a lot of times from people is, what is your relationship with failure? How do you handle going through failure? Because at some point, everybody's going to have some form of failure. It's almost a necessary recipe on your way to success. You're going to have to, it's like, how do you overcome that failure as a stepping stone? And I think what people don't see is, the couple things that stand out to me about your history and your story as you celebrate over 20 years, with this great company, 20 years married to the company, 25 years married to Miss Dana, who's the best. And in that journey, a couple things in your story stand out to me that maybe we could start out talking about some obstacles or failure. I think one of them, a couple of them we covered in the agency meeting, but maybe if you could touch on those two things and some lessons from it that you think people can grab from it, whether they're in our business or out of our business. Because one thing is, if you would have quit during those times, you probably wouldn't be the CEO right now, right? It's difficult to find somebody at the top that quit, in between. And so, one of those was in the beginning. You left a salary, successful job. You were working at GE and had made it in a lot of your family's eyes. Yep. You got promoted 5 times in your first 5 years, with GE, and everybody thought you were crazy. You left GE and started in a commission business, and you had 3 young kids at the time. And so I think that's a pivotal turning point. Not that maybe that would be defined as a failure, but maybe a struggle, of starting out where your wife's working, you got 3 young kids, and you're working evenings, working a lot of hours, you got young kids and all that. So maybe if you could touch base on what that moment was like, if you could relive that in your mind for people. And then also, I remember as an owner, when you were owning your agencies, you hit a rough patch, there where it was like, man, am I going to pick up my pitch book, my bootstraps and do this thing, or am I gonna hang them up? And that you obviously overcame and went on to do great things. And so maybe if you could touch on those two things.
Sure. I'll tell you, anytime you start something new, it's always hard in the beginning. You're with any business, anything in life, anything that you've done, anything that you've ever picked up, whether it's a sport, business, it takes a while, and it's not a lot of fun being the new guy at anything. We all like it easy. We like comfort. We don't want to be the new person at a in a room of people, but all those things take a little bit of time. And starting out in 100% commission business, it's always one of those things, like maybe even opening up a business. If you knew everything, you might not even open up that business or start in the business,
right,
if you knew how much of a challenge it was going to be. And I can tell you in the commission business, and I learned more about myself my first couple of years than I had in a lifetime up to that point. When you're really out there hunting for your food and learning a brand new business. And so when I got started, just the way things worked out, I went to work for my cousin, and he was in upstate New York, which is about 700 miles from where I was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time.
Was that Rochester?
Yeah, that was Rochester, New York.
All right.
And we needed to sell our house, but I needed to get started working. So I went ahead and went up before my wife and kids. And like you had mentioned, we had 3 kids under the age of 4. So we had like newborn, almost 2-year-old, and 3.5-year-old. Basically, they're boom, 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 all in a row. And it was an interesting time going from all your normal routines and the comfort of, your schedule to sleeping on a mattress in the corner of my cousin's 1-bedroom apartment, because it just didn't make sense, because any minute my house is going to sell. My wife's going to be right up there. But unfortunately, what happened is 9/11 hit down in New York City, and the World Trade Center was attacked, and literally the housing market stopped. It was like the world went into one of these time warps, and you see a few of those. And I think a lot of people listening today they know where they were when COVID happened.
Right.
Well, this is 20 years ago. I started this new business, this brand new career, and out of nowhere, this thing happens, and literally the world stopped for a minute, which put us in a situation where for the next 10 months, I was in upstate New York. Wife and 3 kids are back in Kentucky.
Wow.
I've got to work to make money. And if I'm not working and I'm back at home in Kentucky, I'm not making money. We've got bills to pay. We got bills to pay in 2 places now, because and so it created some interesting times. And why I say I learned a lot about myself, I was sharing a story earlier with some of the guys, and I think a couple of people related to this, and so I'll share this because everybody looks at they always look at the end of the deal, but there's a weird time where, like, I would wake up, throw up, brush my teeth, and go to work and be the top person in the office. And I didn't even exactly know what was going on with me at the time. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. And just weird times, but I didn't know anything else other than go to work. And I think it's kind of interesting because some people, even when something like that happens in life, you just naturally go the other way. You take the path of least resistance. Well, the great thing for me was I had a wife and 3 kids. So I had 4 really serious reasons why I needed to go to work despite how I feel. And how many times
a lot of people
in life,
would take that as a reason to sink back into safe zone, comfort zone.
straight safe zone.
Job at GE,
Yep.
making $70 grand plus 20 years ago, so it's
Yep.
really over 6 figures.
Yep.
Nowadays with inflation, and you took a chance.
Took a chance. And the old saying, don't burn your bridges.
Yep.
They were burnt. You know what I mean? There
Yep.
was no going back. And the reason why there was no going back is, anytime, at the time, GE was the biggest company in the world, most admired company in the world. It was the type of place where if you went to work there, you worked your next 30 years, you got your pension, you had made it. People already thought I had made it just because I had
Got a job there.
got a job there.
Yep.
And so when you leave something like that, even though they love you, they tell you you're crazy, you're making a huge mistake. How could you do that to your wife and kid? I mean, everything that you can imagine, which really was just a little more fuel for the fire.
Yep.
For me to say, hey, I got to make it happen because I can't be wrong.
How did you get through those 10 months of sacrifice? To go up, you got to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Sacrifice much to gain much, and so there's not too many bigger sacrifices than not being able to see your family every night or every week or stuff like that. Mentally, how did you get through that?
It wasn't easy, but I had a wife that was very on board with what I was doing, a wife that believed in me.
You leave me with 3 kids under 4.
Yeah.
For 4 hours.
Yeah.
For 10 hours.
Yeah.
Let alone 10 months. We're in trouble.
No doubt. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the easy job. Everybody thinks I had the hard job.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
She was back home with the 3 kids, but what I'll tell you is she understood the vision and what we were trying to do for the family. Wasn't what I was necessarily trying to do. You know, we were trying to get in a situation where I could make enough money where she could not work at her job, which was cleaning houses at the time. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to go work and then try to babysit, and literally the money you're making working and babysitting. But we could not do without the money at the time, and a lot of people feel that way. It's kind of a catch-22. You're trapped. And so it took a lot of support and understanding from her. But I think what a lot of people realize with anything that's hard or easy, it's just like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You wake up every day, you go to work, you get a little bit closer to the goal. There were times where she would come up every 4 to 5 weeks, try to come up for a day or two. And I was still trying to work when she would come up, and she's still trying to keep the house and everything going there so we could try to show the house, to sell the house. But it's one of those things where a lot of times, if you just hang in there, you just keep pushing, you just go, a lot of times it's just around the corner.
Yep.
And I think there are so many people, so many times, that give up at the first major obstacle or second major obstacle. They don't realize that the majority of the people who have had any level of success in life, they've really just overcome a few more failures. They say that success is nothing more than a string of failures, putting them, kind of putting them together.
Yep.
And I don't really, when I look at people in all different avenues, all different walks of life, they have sort of that similar story is, well, man, I just didn't quit. I kept going. And then all of a sudden you look up and things get a little bit easier. And they, the sun's a little brighter. You can start to see the light.
Well, it got a lot brighter, because I know in a relatively quick period of time, you ended up being one of the top producers in the company, top producer in your office, top leader in your office, which at the time was pretty much the hottest agency out of all of the agencies in American Income Life at the time. You guys were the hottest, and you were the hottest in that agency. And there was a couple of you guys that were super hot. So you struck it, big there pretty quickly. And after, winning all the awards and all that, you end up being an agency owner. I know the story. You picked up, moved from New York, moved to Houston, took one person, started all over again, built a successful operation, again in Houston. And with that success, at one point you hit a rough patch, and just for the sake of time, we could say just things got rough, and it got to a point where you went from not needing to sell to make a living, and everything running smooth, to where you had to go back out there and make sales yourself and say, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep pushing through this. Tell us about that period of time. What was that like? What did you go through mentally? How would somebody dig out of that? Because so often you'll see people in our business, whether they're owners or they're, top leaders, they'll hit a rough patch like that. And it's, rather than going back out and doing it again, they say, I'm done, and they quit. You push through that. So,
two things. One, probably one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in life, I learned out of that example. And I remember it was October. We had a huge month, and business was good. And I remember telling a very close friend of mine, man, like, I got this, can't get any better. I've never made this much money in a month. And my head was probably no telling how big it is. I'm just keeping it real. And 3-4 months later, I was literally almost back to the beginning. And that's kind of the short version there. But, what I learned out of that was stay humble. There was a critical thing. But, there's that point, and we've all been there, where even though you don't want to go there, you start talking about or thinking about plan B, whatever that is. Hey, do I need to go back where I started, hit the reset button and build back up, take a step back, go from the major leagues down to AAA ball, get my mojo back and go? And these things, I'm thinking these, and all of a sudden I started verbalizing some of these. And my wife said, well, Steve, if you're going to have to go back and kind of go to work, back with your cousin, let's say where you came from, you're going to have to rebuild a team all over again. You're going to have to get back out there and really do this. I was like, yeah. She goes, well, why would you do it for somebody else when you could do it for yourself? And it sort of hit me. You know, it's like one of those deals where, you know, they say that the only thing that rich people are afraid of is like losing their money. You know, that type of thing when you ain't got any is, you know, and so then they achieve a certain level of success and then they start fixating on, oh my gosh, if I ever had to go back, and, you know, that could probably be some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. But when you realized what got you there, and if you're just willing to do that again, it's really not that big of a deal. Making that decision, and it doesn't matter what level of our business you're in, Simon. There's a lot of different levels other than agency owners of people that build teams of 5, 10, 20 people. Things are going great, and all of a sudden, what you know, you get there, you think you got it all figured out, and all of a sudden
that's usually the issue too. Is before things go down.
That's right.
It's you think you got it all figured out. We got this. You're not putting in the work, you know, the focus as much as you used to.
Of course.
But you did it. You made the sacrifices and pulled yourself out of that and went on to do amazing things again as an owner. Went on to be SGA of the year, which is agency owner in our business of the year. Very next year went on to be the CEO. And so those are those pivotal points, you know, that you can go back on and say, man, not everybody handles those adversities that way or makes the necessary sacrifices, you know, that would have made life a lot different for you, your family, others, you know, other people that you're responsible for leading, you know, from your family to other people's families.
Now. You know, you like a lot of people, it's, you know, it goes back to people love the story of, nobody wants to hear the story of a silver spoon. Somebody was handed everything to them and life was good and easy. We want to hear about the poor, the wretched.
But when you're in it,
that's right.
When you're in it.
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. You're going to be thankful for this one day. This is going to be good for you.
Yeah,
nobody wants to hear that stuff.
No.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I heard a guy ask, you know, a crowd of people. He said, "Man, if you could think of some of the hardest things that you've had to go through, that you've had to overcome, if you could erase that from your memory, would you?"
Yeah. No.
And oftentimes it's no. Right? Because that's what makes you.
It's what makes you. I agree.
It's what prepares you for the battle. And sacrifices, making sacrifices is one of the things that it requires, you know, to play at the level you're playing at. What sacrifices would you say that people need to continue making, you know, as they're starting to climb, that some people that are successful continue making, other people stop making those sacrifices? Anything that stands out to you that people don't see? Like, what sacrifices do people need to make that people don't see?
I think the biggest thing that I would say on that is you just have to understand, and I don't want to bust the bubble here, but you've always got to continue to sacrifice on some level. It's different, but it's always on some level. You know, when I got the call and the question to go to the home office and become the CEO of the company, I had a son that was a freshman in high school and a daughter that was a junior. And my wife was adamant. She was like, "Hey, our daughter's going to finish high school." I was, of course, you know, no big deal, I'll commute. But the challenge was with that is in those 2 years, her junior and senior year, then my son would go from his freshman and sophomore year to him
his
being
junior
a junior
year.
And when you got kids that are pretty good kids, so they're great kids, and you're just trying to kind of put a bow on it and wrap it up and get them on to college or the next level, you don't want to derail that. So it was easier for me to make the sacrifice to commute every week than it was to pull them out of their environment. So for the next 4 years.
Houston to Dallas.
Houston to Dallas, Monday through Friday. And so
4 years.
4 years. Sacrifice was really, really easy when we were young and we were working hard to pay off debt and get our first home and a new car and put a few dollars in the bank. But all of a sudden, when you've achieved a certain level of success, you're a little rusty at the sacrifice. And all of a sudden, you know, you're in a position where you're either going to make a sacrifice and do something for the greater good of everybody else, or you're going to stay in your comfort zone. And we all know that nothing great's going to happen. And so it's a big decision, not just a Steve decision, but for my wife, my kids as a whole, for us to have a conversation as a family.
And I remember the whole family, you know, getting together like that, and the kids supporting it.
Yep.
You know, because if they all would have said no, you wouldn't have did it.
I would.
But everybody getting together and supporting you on that is really cool and special.
I think it really was a big lesson for the kids, because when we were kind of coming up, if you will, they were young.
Yeah.
And
they don't remember.
They don't remember. Everybody thinks the kids don't remember. You know, I always joke and say that I got the kids together and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. You know, I missed some T-ball games. I missed some dance recitals. You know, Dad's sorry." And they said, "It's okay, Dad. We like being rich."
For real.
Joke. But, you know, in fact, they told me, "You can make it up to us for the rest of our lives." You know what I mean?
Right.
Truth is, they don't, you know, when they were young, they don't really remember what was going on. All they know is they had a great mom and dad, and you know what I mean? They don't.
I think that's something we need to dig into. It's uncomfortable, you know, because I almost want to back off it because you can offend people.
Yeah.
You know, saying, "Oh, wow, man, he missed his kid's T-ball game or he missed a recital or something like that." And reality is you don't want to miss anything.
Right.
But there's another reality of sacrifices need to be made, and you can't go too far, you know, to where you miss everything and you're not there as a father.
For sure.
Anybody that knows you, you know, I think that the first thing, if I were to explain you to somebody else, you know, is to understand they're going to meet somebody and get to know somebody that at the core of them is a great person and a great human being and a really good father and a really good husband. And, you know, a lot of the times when I get an opportunity to spend time with you, I pick your brain on those things, on marriage and family. You know, I pick your brain on how to, because your kids, the relationship you have with your children is something people need to understand how good it really is. I mean, you have such a great relationship with your family. It's something that I think everybody would aspire. You know, everybody wants to be a CEO, you know, but I think, man, everybody should really aspire to have the type of family life that you guys have been able to build, you and Dana. And part of that has been, you know, you heard Dana's sacrifice and support, your sacrifice and support. And some of those sacrifices were, you know, it's not being never there, you know, but it's the sacrifice of, man, during my son's high school years, you know, I was seeing him on the weekends and I wasn't there, you know, Monday through Friday all the time.
Right.
And in the beginning, when the kids were, you know, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, you know, young kids, you know, you're grinding, working a lot of hours, putting a lot of work in. And a lot of times those are some of the things that holds people up from greatness, from going to the next level if they're in those positions of well, I don't want to, you know, miss time with the 2-year-old, or I don't want to miss time with the 4-year-old. And it's not, man, let's not see them ever. Let's not spend any time with them ever. Let's use that as an excuse to be a deadbeat dad. Mm-hmm. But there are sacrifices that need to be made that if you do it the right way and you go back and ask your kids, you know, when they're 15 or when they're 20, you know, would you have rather, you know, me stayed home the whole time and us not be able to have the life? And you joke and say, "Oh no, we'd rather be rich. You could make it up to us for the rest of your life." You know, those are things I remember even on a small scale, you know, my mom and getting us the fight to get us off of welfare, to get us in a better area, in a better neighborhood. I remember crying and watching her go to work and work 2-3 jobs. And when I was 8 years old, you know, I would have told her, "Hey, look, I'd just rather stay broke. Let's stay in our $11,000 house, stay here and play video games with me. And let's just live in poverty because I want you here." And that pull, you know, sometimes for the parent or for the people sometimes can really hold them back from giving people and kids a better life. So I think it's good to hear that side of it, you know, from you, that it's not one of the kids come back around and they hate you as a dad because you made some sacrifices and, you know, and all of that stuff.
So there's, you know, since you're on that subject, you know, I think we should keep it real for a minute and talk about balance. Because I have people ask me this, you know, "Steve, how do you feel about balance and balance in life?" And I feel like balance is, you know, important. Like when you look at, you know, eating and working out and even, you know, too much work can be, you know, hazardous to your health, if you will.
Yep.
But I also know that most people that have done anything somewhat great in life have had to get out of balance for a moment in order to get balance. And there's a lot of people that kind of use balance as an excuse to not achieve things that they could achieve. And so specifically what I'll say, and this will probably ruffle a few feathers, but I'll say it, there's a huge problem, I think, today of people confusing quality time with quantity time. So you can go work a job, go home, and there's a lot of guys that go home all night. They jump in the loser lounge, kick their feet up, watch TV, they're on social media, and they are present, but it's that let's be alone together. They're physically there, but they're not mentally there. And so for those of you that are out there listening that feel a little bit out of balance right now, I would just challenge you to think about the quality of the time. You know, so when you are spending time, be there, be all there. Whether that's with your girlfriend, with your wife, put your phone down for a while. If you're focusing on your career and building your business, you might have to put up the bowling ball. You might have to put up the
not the bowling ball. They got to put the bowling ball down.
And the silk shirt. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even though it says Simon right there, you might have to put it up in the closet for a little bit. You might have to sell some of your hunting stuff, your fishing stuff, or for some of the young kids out there, you might have to put the Xbox up for a minute and hold on the Fortnite and the whatever night. And then for the social media junkies out there, your screen time might have to go down for a while. And listen, we could sit here and make excuses all day long, but I really believe that there are a lot of people that are kind of confused on the difference between quantity time and quality time.
Yep.
And, you know, I remember
it's that whole thing. You got 168 hours in a week.
You got it.
If you work 60, you got 108.
Yep.
If you sleep for another 60, you know, you got 50,
Yep.
you know, call it left. And it's what those other 50, how much can you do? You already worked, you already slept. If you put those towards quality use, there's a ton of time and ton of stuff that you could still accomplish.
And you know what? None of us are perfect at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember specifically in those times when I was like out of balance. So I'm Monday through Friday, I'm in Dallas and Houston. I'm on the weekends. Friday night, Dana and I would have our date night on Friday night. I would literally like walk into the restaurant and just hand her my phone. Hey, can you slide that in your purse? Because I don't even want to be tempted because we just have habits and routines.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? And it's like.
That's a big one.
That's
a big one.
That's a free marriage tip there,
yes.
fellas.
I got that one now down. I didn't always.
Just give it to her.
There you go.
That way you can't get
get it
She's
back.
allowed to pick hers up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all fair. You know what I mean? But you, nope.
Can't have
put that thing up. That's right.
Yeah.
And just, you know, so, you know, if you're listening today, I would just say don't use some of these are pretty bad excuses. And look, if you get out of balance for a little while, it's just like with anything. If you invest time, you get time. If you invest money, you get money. So you're going to have to give up.
Put the time in, you get a bunch of time back.
You get that.
Actually, that imbalance temporarily is what gets you all the balance in the world if you use the time wisely and build something.
Crazy the other way.
So now that you're been the CEO for a while, how long we got now?
I'm wrapping up my sixth full year at the home office, but 4 years as the CEO, 2 as the president.
6 years. Flew by. The traits of the greats. You know, you've had a chance to coach and lead people at the highest level in our business and in our industry. And I'm biased, you know, but I think we got some of the greatest leaders. You know, I think I'm surrounded, my teammates and peers and people in this company are so talented, man. We got some really special people. Being able to lead people at that level and travel the world and be all over the place and being in everybody's business and office and talking to people. Anything you could point out that are like, man, here's some of the traits of the greats, man.
Yeah, there's some ones that really jump out, you know, and some of them might not be the first ones that you're thinking of, but what I see that some of the best people are able to do, and sometimes I don't even know if they're consciously doing it, they're able to connect with people and like listen at a different level. And what I mean by that is, you know, we're all there's a lot of us, we're salespeople. A lot of us are low on the ADD side. You know what I mean? And sometimes we're so thinking about the next thing that we're going to say, we're not listening to the person. But the great people at American Income, the people that build bigger agencies, they're able to be just as good of a listener as they are at being a sort of a talker. And it's kind of interesting because specifically our business is a people business.
Yeah.
And people that are on the other side of that know that those people genuinely care.
Yep.
And they're really listening, not just hearing them.
Yep.
That's how. So that's one thing. But I do see that there's a certain and a level of charisma that people have. And early on, I thought they all had to be a certain type. But what I've realized is that charisma comes in many different shapes and sizes, and you can't really see what's on the inside of people. And so I've seen a lot of different styles and people that have had great levels of success in our business, and they have their own charisma and their own swag and their own way to do things, but it's kind of a different way of doing it for each one of those people. There's no doubt though, the probably the two biggest ones is like a relentless work ethic. They're just hard working people that they're not going to give up. They look at the business as not just a way to make money, but a way to have purpose with people. And our business is interesting because it's like a riddle you can never really solve. It's always changing and growing, and just when you think you got to figure it out.
Like jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Just never, it's kind of like a marriage. Try to figure your wife out, you know what I mean, in a good way.
Yep.
Just when you think you got it figured out, you'll find out you don't, and so that keeps you coming back for more. And they rise to that challenge and occasion, so they have that work ethic. And then they have that relentless pursuit of, okay, well, I kind of figured this out. And I think you're definitely at this point in your career where you're like, man, this is something that really gave to me. And now you think it's like the best thing in the world, and you want to share it with a lot of other people. And so it's not about making money anymore. It's about purpose and making a difference in people's lives, making a difference in young people's lives and old people's lives. You just see all the benefits from it. And I would say those are some of the traits that I see over and over.
One of the things I heard you bring up is this, it's kind of like a marriage. You can never quite always, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think, being that you've had, 20 years plus in our business, 25 years plus in marriage, is there any similarities, anything that you could pull out of those two things that you could pull out and take from those to learn about each other?
Yeah, I kind of in this part, this is just my opinion. That'd be an important thing to say on the podcast.
Yep.
In my experience,
Okay.
I ain't writing no books on marriage or nothing. So, I think one of the things that a lot of young people think is that marriage is a feeling, and it's not. It's a commitment. And so just like with any new relationship, everybody's all tingly-toed and, bright-eyed. And then with any relationship, and that's how you are in business, you're excited. Okay, you get started and you're excited. But then all of a sudden the newness wears off. Maybe you've been around for a year or two, and maybe your toes ain't exactly tingling anymore. But it's the commitment to the person and to the marriage and to the business that you made to be there for a long time. And so obviously that takes two people, and you can't do anything if the other person doesn't reciprocate that and feel the same way. But what I've always thought about and never done a good enough job at, whether it's business or marriage, is it's not what the other person can do for you. It's what you can do for the other person or for the business. And if you sort of have that mindset, like a lot of people say, oh, I'm in this business so that I can get money out of it. I'm in this relationship so that I can have whatever. When you take that opposite approach of what can I do for my spouse? What can I do for this business, for these people? If I help enough people get what they want in return, you get what you want. It's the same thing with a marriage. And it's a challenge because we're all human. We're all, we have the, kind of a selfish nature and that type of thing. It's very normal. But there's some very interesting parallels, which is this: when it's tough, when it's not easy, are you still committed to what you started? Are you still going to do what you said you're going to, for better or for worse?
Yeah.
That type of thing. I feel very blessed that I found an amazing best friend and partner in life and wife in life that felt that same way.
And how often, in 25 years, did you maybe have a rough week or a rough month in marriage, and then out the other end comes greatness?
I tell you
we're
what,
great.
Yeah.
And business is that way.
I wish so many people, whether it's business or marriage, you can look at, now over 25 years and 20 years in business, you can look back now And Steve Jobs had a quote where he said, you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Right now, you look back and you see those people that maybe they were struggling, whatever, maybe it's that 7-year itch or something that people talk about. You look back and say, man, like Dana told me, there were times I left you. You know what I mean? I just didn't tell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just part of the deal. And there's times in business where you're like, I might have quit. I just didn't tell my manager mentally, but I kept going. And now you look back and what's really neat is being 25 years down the road in a marriage now, it's the best it's ever been. They're the good. I mean, we made it through the hard time. She's got me trained now. It's a lot easier since she got me trained up. But now it's so much easier. And you go, man, I wish for some other people that they could make it through some of those things and stay committed to the process, just like in business. You know, you can remember, I mean, you've got a great story in business, and it wasn't all up and away. You got some heartbreaks and, you know, some people that quit on you. And so, you know, just things that happen in business. That's every person who's ever owned a business or multiple businesses. I mean, can you imagine all the people in the last 18 months that had a business and you know, a global pandemic hits and they've got their life savings invested in those businesses in just in a snap.
Yeah.
You know, that entrepreneurial spirit doesn't die though. Those people will make it back.
They'll come back.
They'll come back.
No doubt.
They'll come back.
No doubt. Speaking of staying in the line with the marriage thing, how important do you think it is for somebody to have a supportive spouse when it comes to doing business, being an entrepreneur, especially in our business?
So, you know, there's a great saying that Fred Hedaya always says, and it's
try to do it in his accent for me.
Yeah,
do it one time in his accent for me.
Yeah, and I can't do his Boston accent, but he says your wife will be either on your side or on your back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And that whether that's wife, spouse, whether it's man, woman, whoever we're talking to today, man, you know, you got to have your partner supportive of you and supportive of what you're trying to do for you and your family. And, you know, I was always very blessed to have a wife that was always in my corner. And I'm sure there were probably times where she was wondering what was going on, but she was always so supportive. And you know, I would tell you business and life in general is tough enough by itself, having somebody else sort of tearing you down and not building you up. And you got to reciprocate that for your partner as well. I think that's kind of important because if you're not working with your spouse or partner or whatever and making decisions for the family, that's where some of that disconnect can come from. If everybody knows what we're working towards and how long, where I see a lot of guys get in trouble, they're like, okay, I'm going to work real hard, but they don't know how to separate some of the old stuff that they used to do that you can't really do anymore. We touched on that a little bit earlier. It was like, I used to do this stuff. Well, right now, if you're going to work this hard and get out of balance,
you got to give up the bowling.
God, you got to give up the bowling,
the
man.
extracurricular things for a minute,
and
for a moment.
It's hard when you got a reputation at the bowling alley. You know what I mean? Like people know who you are.
Yeah. He got his bag and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
speaking of the extracurricular activities,
yeah,
I'm glad we were able to lure you in to the dark side of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, after these all these years, man.
Yeah,
And
man.
I love that about you. You know, at 49 years young, you know, still pushing yourself and challenging yourself in your jiu-jitsu journey. You know, tell us about how that all started and how everything's going, you know, right now with you, with how you loving jiu-jitsu.
I think once I just learned that I'm not going to be an Olympic athlete. You know what I mean? I'm not training for UFC. You know,
enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey and the process. There's always somebody ahead of you and there's always somebody behind you. It feels like there's more ahead than behind. You know what I mean? Whether it's in technique, whether it's in age, athletic ability, strength, and all these things. But the beauty
You've definitely been working though.
Yeah.
Because you're getting good. You're getting good.
Better.
How cool is it? Okay, get you a CEO, everybody, that will push his tables out of the way in the suite of his room at the hotel in this big old mansion.
Yeah.
to where we could get in some jiu-jitsu gear and roll on the floor,
Yep.
and go to a meeting and leave me in the room to roll with Slav. Get you a CEO like that, man.
You know
Super
what?
cool.
It was a lesson. I get a free lesson out of it. So, there's a, you know what? I think everybody should do jiu-jitsu, and here's why. There's so many great business parallels in terms of starting something new, being uncomfortable, starting as a white belt, and it made me a better person in terms of remembering where a brand new person was when they start our business, or dealing with your kid with something new, something that you think should come easy to them, because I don't know why I was sort of on the slow learner path to jiu-jitsu. I was like, for a while, it wasn't clicking. I was like, what? I don't even know what I'm
It's
supposed
harder
to do.
to grasp than a punch or a kick. That comes more natural.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, it's like to punch.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sweet. I never appreciated boxing as much as I do now after understanding it, learning why do they call it the sweet science. There's more to people if they don't know it and they don't understand it. You just see two guys swinging at each other, but there's so much, much to it. But I think jiu-jitsu is even another level from that. Boxing, punching comes a little bit more natural. Even kids, they'll start out and they'll punch each other, kick each other. Yeah. But nobody's naturally, as a kid, pulling somebody on their back and triangle choking them. You know what I mean? It's there's such different angles. It's such a unique. It's like algebra, versus
really
addition and subtraction. So there's so many pieces to put to the puzzle, but you're putting them together.
Listen, man, I'm just quietly showing up.
That's the key.
And what happens over time is you get a little bit better. You know what I mean? You're not the new guy anymore. There's just a lot of that. Before you know it, you might even be helping somebody on a little bit of something going, I'm not the best at this, but this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And so it's fun. And I've met a lot of great people, and it's awesome to get together with like guys like you and Slav. We could sit there and talk about it all night, and everybody else is like, why are y'all talking about it?
Yes.
And it's, again, I relate it to our business or to marriage.
Big time. Big time parallels.
It's the puzzle I can't solve.
Speaking of the start out phase, white belt phase, new agent.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for somebody? And I guess I'm going to talk specifically to people in our business right now. What advice would you give to somebody that's starting out brand new?
The first piece of advice is just stay coachable. Stay real plugged in right at the beginning, because it's I don't know, maybe there's some people out there. I haven't heard a lot of great stories in our business about people that just everything clicks. I know there are people that have a lot of success early on, but a lot of times they don't even know why they're having that success, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And it might be, there's a lot of times that happens in life, but it's one of those things where you really need to count on your mentorship, your manager, whoever that brought you into the business, and just stay open-minded, a lot of questions, and keep showing up. You're going to have to show up.
Be amazed at what happens 12 months later if you don't quit.
It's crazy.
You keep showing up.
Just, when you talk about, you hear that thing about anything that you're going to master, you need to do for 10,000 hours. So if, in our example, a presentation maybe only took 30 minutes on Zoom, meeting with a client, you're going to have to do 20,000 of those to master that craft. If you did 10 a week, that's only 500 a year. Mm-hmm. So it takes, you know what I mean? And it's a lot like jiu-jitsu when you're only going a couple times a week for a few hours. It's hard to get good quick. So give yourself a little bit of a break. Utilize the people that have gone before you, the experience of the people that have gone before you, especially in your first 100 presentations. Think about that, your first 100. 10 a week for the first 10 weeks. There's a lot of people that say stuff like, I'm not that good at this.
No doubt.
And I didn't start out exactly on
like
fire.
Everybody just starts out and they're picking up a basketball and they turn into LeBron James.
Come on.
Nobody's good as soon as they start.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Then all of a sudden, later on, you're teaching people how to do it, and they're going, oh, he's a natural. I've had people say that. Well, I can see how. Listen, my background was in finance and accounting when I got started. What they do, they count other people's money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't deal with people. They're not in sales. They don't do presentations. I've had people say, oh, well, you're a great speaker. How do you get up in front of whatever, 1,000, 2,000 people and talk like that. Well, it started by talking to 2 people a few hundred times. And then all of a sudden you're talking to a small group of 4 or 5 people. And before it just kind of happens, along the way. And so I think people got to realize that. And I think, they'll say, well, it's easy for you to say that now. Well, listen, all I did was got started and didn't quit.
No
I'm
doubt.
only here because I just got started a little bit before you, you know what I mean? And
I'll never forget, I remember one of my jiu-jitsu coaches saying all a black belt is a white belt that never quit. Same thing.
So true.
Same thing.
So true.
Managers, new leaders.
Yeah.
Advice to a new manager. They're just getting promoted, just getting started managing people, leading people.
Yeah. So for some reason, when people transition in our business from producing to leadership, they forgot the things that got them there. And so our business is it's caught, not taught. So it's like parenting. Everybody wants to tell their kids your kids are, I promise you, they're going to do what you all do. If you're a smoker and you're going, don't smoke, you know what I mean? Your kids are going to be smokers. If you have bad eating habits, your kids are going to have, if you have good eating habits, it all works, the same way. And new agents are a lot like your kids are going to do, about 80% of what you do wrong, about 20% of what you do right. So just understand early on, they're going to catch a lot of this from you. So you need to be still producing at a high level and have it. They need to see your work ethics. They need to see how much work you put in on the phones. But most importantly, they need to know that sacrifice is worth the reward in the end.
So you got to cast that vision.
You got to cast
of
that
why
vision.
we're doing what we're doing. Why are we doing all this
got
work? Because you got to connect the dots for them because they can't see it in the beginning. We're doing all this because 1 year from today, this is what it's going to look like.
And you're constantly, reminding them what's in it for them. They're already looking at you, and you might only be here for 3 months, 5 months, and they're going, wow, he's amazing. He must be a natural. They don't know how you were 3 months ago. And so it's one of those things where the biggest thing I could tell a new manager is, you need to set a good pace, but and show them that work ethic, but they need to know what's in it for them all the time, every day, casting that vision, keeping it out in front of them, like saying, I can teach you, I'll help you, I'll be there for you, and really be there for them.
Caring.
Simple.
The whole thing of people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
You got it.
And being patient with people.
Yep.
Not everybody's going to grab it as fast as you.
I didn't grab it super fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't the worst in the world, but, they talk about industry averages about 1 to 3. I was maybe early on for a while, 1 out of 4, but I outworked everybody. And then I got to about a 1 out of 3. Things started going a little bit better, and then later on about 2 out of 3. But, I didn't like you, you could make Hall of Fame batting 300 in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
I love that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Hall of Fame, just hitting 1 out of 3. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing in our business.
Yes.
Hall of Fame. Stay in the game.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame, you're going down in the Hall of Fame, my brother. You've just been amazing to all of us, in this company, the things you've done, the way you've led with your heart, just in the short 4 years, as a CEO, 6 years with the company, man. It's the trust level, I think, in our company, while it's never going to be, perfect in the beginning, is just the trust level, I think, is at an all-time high, in the 20 years that I've been here. People know you care about them. People trust you. There's no doubt, you're a Hall of Fame dad, husband, business person, friend, everything. And what do you see, for us, for you, what's the vision, 5 years from today, kind of what's next?
So we talk about it, big company can make a big difference. We're not just looking to hit a sales number. Our company really is special in that, we've got a lot going on where we can give back into the communities that we serve. We've got things going on at a corporate level. The things you guys are doing on a local level are amazing. The things that we all get together and collaborate on, we've got a lot of stuff going on, and it's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of in our business. But I know the bigger we get, the more impact we can make. And so, it's kind of interesting. I don't get people that ask this question a whole lot, but, I've been up at the home office. We're wrapping up, year number 6. And when I came at the end of 15, early 16, we had done about $200 million as a company. And this year we'll end up close to $300 million. And so we've had about a 50%
50%.
increase, right?
Yep.
And so in my mind, I kind of do the math like this. You know, if over the next 5 years we could do another 50%, we'd be at 450-ish right there, take 300 in half. And then if we took that and did it again, all of a sudden we're at that 750, you know, right in that range. And so it kind of lines up. I feel like our responsibility in leadership is growth, because everybody wants to be part of something that's going somewhere. So we've got to stretch ourselves every day to grow. But it really just kind of lines out good for me mentally at 49, you know, to go, man, let's hit this thing really, really hard. I think we can do some amazing things. You know, the vision is $1 billion.
No doubt.
And when you look at the number of families we're protecting a month right now, somewhere between 55, 60,000 new families are getting protected every month. I'm proud of that.
Me too.
But if we were
It's a beautiful thing.
if we were doing $1 billion, we'd be doing 4 times that.
Yeah.
You know, if we're giving away millions of dollars.
Something crazy people don't realize is we have the most globe.
Yeah.
Has the most policy holders of any insurance company in the country.
Any life insurance company,
right?
yeah.
Any life insurance
Over
company.
16 million policy holders.
Unbelievable.
So that's like
the
really cool
lives
to say.
impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we pay out globe billions of dollars in claims. American Income, we're paying out over $70 million a quarter right now. I mean, just so many awesome things there. So it's really neat that what we do makes such a big impact on the families. You know, we're all blessed just from the business in general and the impact it's made on us. But to know, like, there's a lot of things in life you could go sell, if you will. You sell a car and they just call you because it broke down. You know, they're not happy. Ours is that type of product where later on down the road, you know, they're like, wow, man, I'm really glad that person took
On that
time
day.
out of their day. Yeah.
If you do it long enough, you know, you'll have friends, family members that, you know, that get influenced or touched, you know, by that. And
Sure.
in my 16 years, I've had friends of mine, young, you know, my age already. I've had people take advantage of those products, and it makes it even more real when it's your own family, your own friends, and all of that stuff. So, but thank you. Thanks for joining us on the GRINDcast. Thanks for
having me.
all of your sacrifice and service to the company. Thank you for everything that you've done for all of us in and out of business. Thanks for helping us. You know, leadership is caught, not taught. You know, as you say, thanks for allowing us to catch fire. You know, not everybody has an opportunity to have a CEO or have leadership that, you know, all things, you know, not that anybody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Not every moment is perfect if you catch us on our worst day. But, you know, in the gist of the grand scheme of it all, you know, to have the opportunity to have a leader that is successful in their marriage and have somebody to look up to in that respect, you know, not just for myself, but for our people, to say, man, that's my CEO. Look at him and his, you know, wife celebrating 25 years or 26 years. Look at him and his kids. Look at what his kids are doing, and look at him 20 plus years in the business, and look at you losing all that weight, you know, getting in shape, embracing the mind, body, spirit. And but thank you for leading by example, man, in so many different areas. I know it comes with to whom much is given, much is required. A lot of pressure, you know, to know that everybody's life, so many lives are in your hands, man, and we're all grateful for you. I know I speak on behalf of everybody when I say that.
Before you check out, let me just tell you thank you. What you do as a person, what you do for this agency, what you do for the company. You're a very, very big part, a very special part of our company, and our company wouldn't be here without you, and you make a lot of sacrifices. You've come like you went from asking questions about marriage to, you know, help and give out some advice to some people. And I know, like, it's not always perfect and everything all the time, but just watching you grow up as a man, as a husband, and how you've been with your kids. You know, I remember being a little bit younger and hearing people say stuff like that about other people, and it made me want to work real hard to one day have people, you know, not that anybody's perfect, but to speak about me that way. And you've made a big difference in your podcast, man. There's people out listening that, you know, if there's one or two things that you don't even, I know you know, there's no way you can even know somebody randomly hearing something where you touch their life, and later on down the road that all comes full circle, man. That's how it works. You reap what you sow.
Amen. Well,
Keep
thank
sowing
you.
good seed.
Thank you. Speaking of which, if this can help anybody or impact anybody in any way, please share this with others so we can impact more lives, make a bigger difference. But Mr. Steve Greer, CEO Steve Greer, thank you for coming on the GRINDcast with us. We appreciate you. Get ready. It's a new day.
Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.